2025 NFL team previews, Tennessee Titans. I'm going to assume not many of you watched every Titans game last season. That's really the only way someone could realize just how bad the season was, because I'm not sure I can do it justice with just words and numbers, but I'll give it a shot. Based on advanced metrics, the Titans weren't terrible, but they just constantly puked on themselves in every high leverage, meaningful spot. Just so many mistakes. Titans finished 3-14, but they outgained 10 of their 17 opponents on a yards per play basis. So think about that. They outgained 10 of their 17 opponents and finished with a negative 149 point differential. Will Levis was the reason for this. He literally handed the other team wins. 44 points came off of turnovers he was directly responsible for, either pick sixes or fumbles. It goes without saying he finished dead last in EPA per dropback, success rate, sack rate. It's one thing to go 3 and out and punt, but if Will Levis in the fourth quarter just took a knee on first, second, and third down and then punted, Tennessee very likely would have won 2 more games. Literally, the only positive was it allowed them to get the #1 draft pick in Cam Ward. Titans have missed on multiple QBs in the draft. If Cam Ward ends up being him, he'd be the first one to hit since Steve McNair. Titans, of course, are hoping Cam Ward can bring instant production like C.J. Stroud or Jayden Daniels. I, for one, didn't have Cam Ward in that same caliber of QB, but he's definitely easy to root for. His story's great, from barely recruited out of high school, 3 different colleges, to #1 draft pick and NFL Week 1 starter. Realistically, if Cam Ward is even an average quarterback, huge improvement. If he's a bottom 8 quarterback, or let's say he's like the 23rd ranked quarterback, it's a significant improvement. Even if he ends up being good too, like say if he's like Bo Nix rookie season good, this team's going to win way more than their win total of 6 games. Titans finished 2-15 against the spread last season. That's the worst against the spread rate I have in my database since 1999. 16 other teams have finished 2-15 against the spread since 1999. When you have a team that bad, it sparks drastic changes. And those 16 teams that went 2-15 against the spread, 10 of them had a winning record against the spread the following year. 74% of them exceeded their win total. This, of course, is because teams who finish so poorly get top draft picks, and it's usually a top quarterback. And for those top QBs that play up to expectations, their teams usually overachieve the market expectations by a good amount. Also, the public perception helps create line value for bettors. Everyone looks at the Titans as the worst team in the league, rather than what they could potentially be in certain games this season. So I do think there's opportunities to make money with Tennessee in certain spots. And when you have a team as bad as the Titans, there's going to be a lot of change. And I'm not going to go over every free agent signing, but there was 18 players who switched teams in free agency this offseason that played more than 90% of their team snaps last season. Titans were able to get 4 of them, which is really good for Tennessee because they're always going to have trouble in free agency. Nobody wants to go to Tennessee. It's not a destination players want to go to, so the Titans have to overpay for players to get them to go. 2 of the new free agent signings, they're going to be immediate impact players on the offensive line. Guard Kevin Zeitler, left tackle Dan Moore. You know what I think about up front in the trenches and how games are won there. Zeitler and Moore, big upgrades on a young offensive line. 35-year-old Zeitler, top 5 guard last season, reliable, durable, doesn't miss games. Moore, left tackle. This is big because it allows last year's first-round pick, J.C. Latham, to go back to his natural position in right tackle. This will be the best offensive line the Titans have had in a while. You've got to protect your asset, Cam Ward. And the O-line has been a huge issue in Tennessee starting 3 years ago. Head coach Brian Callahan brings in his father, who is arguably the best active legendary offensive line coach last year. He didn't really have much to improve on. He didn't have the hogs up front to do it. This year he does, so I'm expecting a big improvement on the O-line. And head coach Brian Callahan better hope all these moves work out because although he's only on his 2nd year, the Titans got a new GM, Mike Borgonzi, and Brian Callahan wasn't his hire, or the hire of President of Football Operations Chad Binker. Whenever a coach is hired before the GM, they're pretty much looking for reasons to fire him. And it's not like the Titans' problems are all fixed now with a new QB, because Levis and the offense weren't the only unit to blame. Their special teams allowed block punt touchdowns, punt return touchdowns. Titans special teams unit was historically bad. There's a very popular metric I haven't talked really much about in these team previews, but it's called DVOA. It's an advanced metric that was created back in 2015. I'm not going to explain what it measures. You can look it up for yourself. But Titans special teams finished dead last in DVOA and had the 5th worst punt team in the history of DVOA metric. If there was a bright spot for Tennessee, I guess it's the defense. No real significant changes on that side worth discussing. They finished 12th in success rate last season, 6th in yards per play allowed, and forced the 6th highest rate of punts. But with an offense and special teams as bad as they were, it didn't really matter what the defense did. But except the defense is guilty of mistakes too. Titans committed the sixth most defensive penalties in the league and led the league in automatic first downs allowed on third downs, which is why you see such a big gap on EPA per play and success rate. Helping prop up those defensive numbers was they faced the third highest percentage of snaps against backup quarterbacks. And I've talked a lot about strength of schedule in each team preview, but I've only talked about how it's calculated in a few. And there's many different ways someone can rank strength of schedule. If you type in NFL strength of schedule into Google, you'll probably get different results for each website you click on. And it's because there's so many different ways you can calculate it, but a lot of them are flawed. And I'm not just saying that because I create my own. It's just some ways make no sense. Like, one popular way is using a team's win percentage. This is absolutely meaningless. A team that wins a lot of games, it doesn't automatically mean they played a weak strength of schedule. They could just be a good team. And vice versa. A team with a bad win percentage didn't mean they played a tough strength of schedule. A good, simple way to figure out strength of schedule is by simply counting up all the opponent's projected win totals for that season, because win totals are a current season projection by the smart people at the sports books with money on the line. And they factor in all the off-season changes and not just last year's results. So when we look at win totals, Tennessee plays a schedule of opponents with the 8th fewest combined wins, or 8th easiest strength of schedule based on win totals. I have them playing the 3rd easiest strength of schedule, and that's because of how I create my strength of schedule is by using my power ratings. Power ratings are different than power rankings. Power ratings is assigning a value for each team. Rankings is just giving them a number 1 through whatever. With rankings, you don't know how much better the number 1 ranked team is than the number 7 ranked team, but with ratings, you do. I use a bunch of different advanced metrics that all boil down into a single number, and I take the average rating of opponents played. So for Tennessee, I have their average opponent rated 1.1 points worse than a league average team. But there's other factors I account for in this number, like situation, travel, rest advantage. The Titans will play 9 teams I have rated in the bottom 10. So their opponent's strength is weak, but they also have parts of their schedule I adjust for. Like week 7, they get to play the Patriots, who are playing their 3rd straight road game. Another plus spot on the Titans schedule is Titans don't leave Nashville from week 9 to week 13. 3 straight home games with their bye mixed in. These are things that get factored into my strength of schedule, but now it's not all positives for the Titans either. In fact, it's pretty lopsided from an offensive and defensive strength of schedule. Based on last year's EPA rankings, the Titans will play a schedule of the worst rated offenses. So the Titans defense should have it easy. Titans offense has it harder though, especially with a rookie quarterback. Week 1, Cam Ward makes his pro debut on the road in Denver against the number 1 pass defense that should be just as good, if not better, this year. Plus, playing in Denver in early September is about as tough as it gets. Heat, altitude. Since 1999, Denver has won 80% of their home games in the first 2 weeks of the season, with opponents going under their win total 63% of the time in those games. Now that's week 1. Let's go down the list here. Week 2, a young Rams defense that finished top 12 last year, but poised to progress. They ragdolled Sam Darnold in the wild card round of the playoffs last year, and that was against an elite Vikings offensive line. Now week 3, underrated Colts defense with new defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, who has a history of causing trouble for even the league's best QBs. Week 4 starts a 3-game road trip. First up was the Texans pass defense that finished 5th last year, possibly the best cornerback and edge rush combo in the league. Week 5, still on the road, now out west, face a revamped Arizona defense. Week 6, final leg of this 3-game road trip, still out west. Max Crosby and the Raiders pass rush. I know the Raiders aren't like an elite defense, but situation matters here. Teams playing their 3rd road game in a row only have a 30% win rate the last 5 years. That's 4 out of the 6 games on the road to start the season, all against brutal run of opposing defenses and pass rushes. Not an ideal start to a schedule to break in a rookie quarterback. New offensive coordinator too, new offensive pieces. Any Cam Ward fans who are looking to bet him to win Rookie of the Year might want to wait till after Week 5. Of course, this is a gamble within a gamble. If he comes out slinging, then you're screwed. But his start to the schedule is about as tough as it gets for a rookie quarterback. And Cam Ward won't have to do it all on his own. He does have some offensive pieces. Offensive-minded head coach in Callahan. He prefers like a 3-wide out or 3-wide spread offense. Decent receiving weapons. Van Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, Lockett. Lockett's lost a step, but solid veteran leader. They get a couple receivers in the 4th round of the draft who could potentially step into a role. I really like the Titans tight end Chigu Kongwa. He has upside, flashed some explosiveness. Ranked 4th in missed tackles forced per reception at the tight end position. Tony Pollard, solid running back. I love running back TJ Spears, but he's on the IR. He's going to miss the first 4 weeks, which screwed up my plans for the flex back in my drafts. This is the first preview I'll mention special teams or special teams coach hire. But I have to here, considering how bad the Titans were last year in special teams. They hired John Fassel, longtime respected special teams coach. He comes over from the Cowboys, where he's been for the last 5 years, and the Cowboys finished top 10 in special teams DVOA all 5 years he was there. Any change is going to be a positive to this unit. Titans regular season win total has a split line, which means depending on which book you look at, it's either 5.5 or 6.5. Now I have Tennessee projected at 6.5 wins, which would be a full game over the 5.5 wins, but books that have their win total at 5.5 are making you pay minus 175 juice. So is it really 5.5 if you have to risk 175 to win 100? It's a 6.5 win team. I project 6.5 wins, so nothing there as far as win total projections go. But I am buying more upside with this Tennessee than the downside. This one definitely went a lot longer than I expected it to, but I like these teams with like low expectations. They get a lot of interesting ways to look at them. We only have one more team to go, the Washington Redskins. Look out for that one. Until next time, good luck with your bets.